Hello, welcome to part 2 of how to create 3D computer lab, and this is the modeling part. In this part, we model our object, arrange them together to form a scene. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do now is to click on general so we can create a general project. We don't need this camera for now. I'm going to press X to delete. But before I press S to delete, I'm going to show up my gas coin. Whatsoever I'm doing, you'll be able to see it right here. So now click on this camera and press X to delete the camera for now. Press on this as well and delete the light. We don't need the camera, likewise we don't need the light for now. So what we only need is this cube right here. I want you to come down here, then I want you to choose graffiti, likewise enable shadow. Since we are not using light, we're not using camera, this will enable us to see through the mess very well. The next thing now is, if you press 1 on your keyboard to take it to the front view, likewise 3 to the side view, likewise 7 to the top view. Now press 1 on the keyboard to go to the front view, then select the cube, press G, then on the Z axis move the object to stay on the X axis on this red line. So once it's on this red line, I think we are good to go. We can start our modeling. If you check our image reference, we only need these parts, one side and this side, making 2 sides. We're going to delete the front one and the side one. So now let's go back to our cube here, number pad 1, that is the front view. Click here, switch back to edit mode, or press tab on your keyboard. So the tab on your keyboard will switch from object mode to edit mode. So now I'm in edit mode. So I'm going to click on the face, press X, delete the face. So now this face is now open. Click on this face, press X, delete face. So now we have something similar to our reference image. Now this one is there, this one is there. Why this is out, why this is also out. The next thing now is to make the cube as long and as wide as this. Press A, it will select all the old faces. Then press S. I want to scale on X axis, likewise on Y axis. X axis to make it more longer, like this. We're just going to scale and use our eye to see is it okay. So now I'm scaling on Y axis. So I think to me this is okay, I guess. Yeah, this is okay. Scale on Z axis. So I'm going to press X and press Z, then scale on Z axis this way. Press 1 on your number pad, press G and press Z to move back to the X axis. Let it stand on the X axis. So I have something like this. So if we check our reference image, we have something like this. So we can get this and get this at the end. So when we have this now, you can see it's now something similar to our reference image. Now we have the room similar to this. So after that, the next thing we are going to do now is, if we are okay with this, if we are okay with the length and the width of the room, then we can proceed to the next one. And if you are not okay with it, you can as well expand it more. Just press A to highlight all, then press X, then press X, that is on X axis. Likewise press S and press Y on Y axis as well. So I think this is okay for me, I guess. If it's not okay, at long run we can as well scale it the more, so it doesn't matter. Switch back from edit mode to object mode by pressing tab on your keyboard. We are now back to object mode. We are having a pillar here. Let's put in the pillar, let's put in the window, likewise this and this. So the first thing I'm going to do now is the pillar. To get that pillar, we can just make use of add, mesh, and we can make use of cube. Cube will give us the pillar. If you don't want to be going to add, mesh, we can just press Shift A on our keyboard. It will give us the same thing. So now we have our cube here. So the next thing is just to position it to where we want it to stay and to scale it to our text. Now to scale this, now I'm going to use S to scale it. So now I can now move it on my x-axis, then move it back on my y-axis. So now I have it on my y-axis now. If this space here is enough for this, then you can use your eyes to calculate it, this very one. But if it's not enough, then we can now go back, move this back on x-axis, literally like this. So this space should be enough for this basin. We can now start scaling on z-axis to make it longer. So I can move it up, on my z-axis. So it's very long, it's showing up here, so I can now as well scale it back on z-axis. So to reduce the size, I can move it back on my z-axis, move it down. So I have something like this. So I can move it on z-axis. So it's now okay this way. Press Shift A. We press Shift A, then we have our cube as well. We can as well scale it, then move it on the x-axis, then move in on y-axis this way, then still move it on the x-axis, so it can go to its own very position. So we have this to be here. I'm going to move it out. I can scale this way. So let's place the wall as well at the back. So if this is okay for the wall, there's a wall that it's going to stay right here. So we can still use a plane, or we can still use cube. If we go to add, we can add plane or cube. If we add plane, it's still cool, and if we add cube, it's still okay. But let's make use of cube. Scale this on x-axis to make it flat. Move it on x-axis. I can now move it in on my y-axis this way. Then I can move it up on my z-axis. Yeah. Then I can now expand it, scale on z-axis, so it can go up. Don't be scared when scaling. You can as well refat it back. If it's too much or it's too small, we can still get it back, so there's no cause for alarm. So we have this, and we have this. I think we've achieved 1, 2, 3. Then the next thing is to go for this window. So now I'm going to rename this one by one, so I need to know what I'm doing. I'm going to click here. I'm going to rename this to lab room. I'm going to rename this to pillar. You can just name your own, anything. If I want to click the room now, okay, this is the room, and this is the pillar, and this is the back plane, and this is the washing base. To model the window now, press Shift A, then go to cube. If you have this cube, press slash on your keyboard, then it will give you a particular editing for that object itself. If I select the room and I press the slash, it give me the room editing alone. If I go back to that slash, I can edit all. If I click this, I can edit only this. Scale on x-axis, likewise scale on the y-axis to make it flat. So I can scale on x-axis this way to make the window more flat. I think it's flat enough this way. It's flat enough. Now move it on z-axis. Scale it again on z-axis so it can be longer. So I can move it on my z-axis. I think this is okay for now. We can as well expand it when we are done. There is a line here, then we have this, then this. To edit mode, just tap key. So I'm going to add these 2 loop cuts, then move it back. I think it's okay this way. Then I'm going to add another loop cut by pressing Ctrl R. Ctrl R is to add loop cuts, just 2. I'm using my middle mouse button to increase the number of loop cuts. So I'm going to scale it again to my x-axis this way. Yep, like this. I think this is okay. Then I'm going to add another loop cut horizontally. Ctrl R, add another loop cut going to add 2 loop cuts, then scale it on Z axis. So now we have these 2 loop cuts. I'm going to delete the face. I'm going to delete this. Likewise, I'm going to delete this. So now I'm going to delete these faces. If I press X, now delete the face. Now we have this right here. So the next thing I'm going to do now is go back to edge select mode, select this, right click, then click on bridge edge loops. I've bridged the edge, so I'll fill in face for this edge. So we're going to do the same thing for this one. Select all this and select all this, then just right click bridge edge loops. So we bridge this edge loop. We are going to add another face inside the window, so we can have just like a glass. Zoom in, then press Ctrl R to add a loop cut right here. Move it back a little, so we can press F. F is to fill in the face right there. So we can as well do the same thing here. Ctrl R, add the loop cut right here, then move it back a little, then press F again to add the face right there. Press slash again, we go back to this, then we can scale it on our axis, then move it here. We can now select a face that we're going to use to cut out the hole from the wall. Go back to edit mode, select this face, select this, all should be selected. Press Shift D. So Shift D will give us duplicate of that object. Press Escape, press P on our keyboard. P is to separate them. So we want to separate them by what? By selection. Select this very cube, then move it back. Then I can now go back to edit mode, then fill in the face. So fill in this face, select all, that is A, then extrude it on Y axis. Move this now on Y axis this way. Name it window bow. Click on this modifier, add modifier, then click on boolean. So if we click on this boolean, select the object here, window bow, hide this, then we have this for now. So the part of the window now is now cut out. Then we can now move our window back on our Y axis just to place the window right there. So I think this is perfectly okay. This is the first window, this is the second window. Then the next thing is just to duplicate that window bow and move it back. This very window bow, we can duplicate it, Shift D, or we can as well have the instant by using Alt D. Press Alt D on your keyboard, then move it on X axis, so it can be here. So once we have this to be here, we can as well cut out that part. The room is not long enough, so I'm going to scale the room on X axis so it can accommodate what we have. But for me to do that, what I will do now is I will go to edit mode, click on this room, the lap room, go back to edit mode, then click on edge select mode, select this edge, select this edge, select this edge, then just press G on your keyboard and let it go on X axis, so we can as well move it forward, so we can have enough space to place the window and our table at long run. So I think this is okay for now. Go back to my object mode, then move this back on X axis. I think this is enough, so our table will be right here. So if we have this now, I can as well add another modifier by clicking on this, click on this modifier tab, add modifier, then boolean. Then the next thing, I'm going to select this window bow just to cut out the second part of it. So I've cut out, I can hide, then duplicate this window so we can have 2 windows. Press Alt D on your keyboard, then move on X axis. Then we have this here. Press Shift A on your keyboard, go to Mesh, then click on this cube. You click on this cube, then we can expand it. You can slice to scale it on X and Y axis. So scale it on Z axis for now, this way to make it look so flat. So we can scale it on on Y axis, then we can move it X axis to make it look come here, since we want our table. So this is the table we are trying to model now, so that's why we are using this plane. So we can use this. I'm going to scale it on X axis. I can now scale it on my Y axis like this, then move it back on my Y axis, move it up on Z axis. Press /A now to go to this mode. Scale it on our Z axis, make it more flat. I think this is perfectly okay. Now switch back to edit mode. The next thing we are going to do is to add loop cut. Ctrl R to add loop cut, use the middle mouse button to add through, then scale it on X axis. I think this is okay for now. Add another loop cut, middle mouse button to add through, then scale on Y axis. So now we have this. Now what we are going to do now is we are going to select this face here, this face right here. Likewise select the face right here and the face right here. So press I on the keyboard to insert the face. We can now extrude those face out. Press E on your keyboard to extrude the face on Z axis. I think this is perfectly okay for the table. So I think we are done with this. Press / to move back, move it up on Z axis. So I think this is perfectly okay. Scale it on X axis, then move it back on X axis. Something like this. If it's too wide, we can still scale it, but for now, I think my own is perfectly okay. Yeah, the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another cube. Shift A, cube, then scale it on my Z axis, make it flat, move it on X axis, then move it up on my Z axis like this. Scale it again on X axis like this. I think it's way too big. Make it flat. Yep. Then scale it on my Y axis like this. Yeah, I think this is fine. Now move it down Z axis so it can lie on this table here. I think this is okay. I think it's okay this way. So the next thing we are going to do now is click here, click on modifier, then what we want is array. But we want it to go to the other side of the table, so it will be on minus. Yep. Now we have our table. The next thing is to get our divider in between the table. Press Shift A, mesh cube, scale it, then move it on X axis, then move it up, scale it on Z axis, now scale on Y axis to make it more wide, just like exactly like this. So I can scale it on my Y axis since it's too long. So I have this. I can move it on X axis. Yeah, I think we are okay with this. It's now looking similar to this. So let's model this comboard right here. To model this comboard is very straightforward and very easy. Press Shift A on the keyboard, go to mesh, then cube, move the cube on X axis, scale it, move it up, zoom in, zoom in, move it, press slash on the keyboard. Then we want this to be exactly like this. So we are going to cut out some part of the cube. Press tab on the keyboard, Ctrl R to add the loop cut, make sure it's 2, then scale it on Z axis, Ctrl R, add another loop cut, scale it again on Z axis, so we can have like this. So we can add another loop cut right here, the middle mouse button to duplicate it, scale it on Y axis, Ctrl R, another one, move it here, select the face, select these faces, insert the face, then G to move it in. So if you check now, it should be similar to what we have here. I have the cut exactly the way it is right here, the way it is right here. We're still going to have another cut right here, move it down on Z axis like this, loop cut, add 2 of it, then scale it, select this face, insert the face, move it in on X axis. So we have this like this. I think this is perfectly okay, similar to what we have here. Then we can now press slash, go back to this view here, go to this tab, click on add modifier, click on array. We want it to be on Y axis, the count should be 3, this should be 0. I think this is okay. So I think we have this. The next thing on the list is to bring in monitor and chairs. We are going to bring in this monitor and chair using an add-on. The add-on is called Blender Kit. Blender Kit is an add-on where you can get different type of assets that you can use in your Blender projects. So now what we need now is a monitor, likewise some chairs that we can use in this project. To activate this add-on, go to Edit, click on Preferences, then click on Add-on, and click on this add-on, search for Blender Kit. Click here to activate it. It must be checked. Click on this arrow. If you haven't connected to Blender Kit library online, it will ask you to log in or register. So you can go to blenderkit.com/add-on. You can register manually using this site. You can log in here. We need to register so that we can get this API key. If you are new to Blender Kit, just click register. When you register, then you log in. Click on this profile, then go to profile. From this profile, we're going to see your API key. Copy your own API key and place it right here. Once you paste it right here, that's all. You can start using Blender Kit. Once you have Blender Kit add-on enabled, press N on your keyboard. Go down, you are going to see Blender Kit. So this Blender Kit is the panel for our Blender Kit add-on. You should see your profile, likewise the storage that you are having. So right here you can search for any assets. Likewise, you can as well upload any asset that you have on your system into Blender Kit's library. So I'm going to search for chair. Now you're going to see different varieties of chair right here. So you have to choose the one that suits your taste. But for this tutorial, if you see we have a specific chair that we import here. So let's go back and search for that chair. Just click here to look for the chair that is similar or exactly what we want. Remember to click free only so we can have a free chair. All these ones you are seeing padlock on, you have to pay before you can get this asset. So we need something free. Click on free only. It will bring out all chairs that are free for us to use. Here is the very chair we are to import here. If you check this reference image, here is the chair. Click here. Wait for the chair to download. If you check down here, you will see the chair is already downloading. So once it's reached 100%, it's going to bring in the chair to our Blender project. So now it is now 100%. Now we have our chair inside the project. Click here to bring the chair to the scene. The next thing is to arrange this chair and duplicate it to form up something like this. We have 3 here, we have 3 here. Hide this, press R, Z, -90, then G, Y to move this chair on Y axis to the other edge. Scale the chair, make it more bigger this way, so we should have something similar to our reference image. something like this. So we can scale it, so to make it look okay, we can still scale it. So we have this chair right here like this. So this is our chair. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this fairy chair. We can duplicate this chair, can add this array modifier. Then what we want is we want 3 chairs, not a single chair. We want 3 chairs. So increase the count to 3. Increase the space between them so we can have the chair arranged properly. Exactly. Now I can still move it back. G on X axis. Let's move it back